podcasts. Okay, great. Before I joined Toastmasters, I had a job in real estate in the early 1980s. I don't know how many of you remember the early 1980s, but we had a terrible recession. Interest rates went to 15, 16%. So I got laid off from my job. So I got laid off from my job, and I went home, told my wife. Now, my wife and I, we were already having a lot of trouble. Now that I was home all the time, we really had a lot of trouble. So she left me. And then I got a divorce. Now, since I wasn't working, and my wife was the only one working, I couldn't make the mortgage payments on my house. So I had my house taken away from me. So I lived in my car, and I was living in my car. It was a little cramped, and I don't know if anybody ever lived in their cars. Living in my car, then one day I went into Denny's for breakfast, and I came back out, and the finance company repossessed my car with all my stuff in it. Now I had nothing. How many of you ever gone downtown Phoenix? They have the 7th Avenue Bridge. Anybody ever see the 7th Avenue Bridge? Well, I remember going over the bridge and I saw some people living under the bridge. So I thought, well, I'm going to go down there, see what's going on. And it was springtime, so it wasn't too bad. So I went down and I slept under the bridge, which wasn't too bad. The next day I found a big box that refrigerators come in. You know, big refrigerator, so I got a big refrigerator box. I brought it down, put it under the bridge, and I slept in the refrigerator box. And then one night I got one of these little Coleman lanterns because it was very chilly. I got the Coleman lantern. I turned the Coleman lantern on, and I was a little chilly, so I pulled all these newspapers over me. And as I'm laying there, I'm looking up at the newspaper, and I see an ad. An open house for a Toastmaster group that's serving free breakfasts. And I'm really starving. I haven't eaten in a week. So I decide, okay, I'm going to go down to the Toastmaster group, kind of like this here, and get a free breakfast. So I did. And I went and I had a great breakfast. And at that meeting, there was a motivational speaker almost like me today. And he gave me all of this great inspirational information. So I went back to the Toastmaster group. Then I went to another group. I found out any group that was giving free breakfast, I went to their meetings. And I was eating my way across Arizona. It was terrific. And so I joined Toastmasters. And I got a really great job, and I was making lots of money, and today I'm a retired millionaire motivational speaker. Woo. Wasn't that an amazing story? But it's not true. It's a big fat lie. That's what it is. I was doing good. When I got introduced to Toastmasters, my life was good. I was married to a most beautiful woman. We've been married now for 37 years. I had a brand new baby boy. I had just gotten my master's in business administration from W.P. Carey School of Business, and I was a certified public accountant. And I had been in accounting for 10 years. And I wanted to get out of accounting. I was tired of accounting, wanted to do something else. So I'm listening to a lot of motivational tapes. Now, by the way, this is all true. Just So I'm listening to the motivational tapes, and every single one of those speakers said, if you want to improve your life, join Toastmasters. So I did, and I went to my first meeting. And I thought at the time, I'm doing good, my life is good. And I went to a meeting, and there were some great speakers there. They were speaking with confidence. They were speaking from their heart, very sincere, with great ideas. And I thought, this is for me, because what I wanted to do was get out of accounting and into management or in marketing. So I joined Toastmasters. Within 2 years, I was promoted to the vice president of marketing for one of the largest real estate firms in Arizona. This is true stuff, man. And that really encouraged me to become an advocate for Toastmasters. So, what is the message here? The message is good can be the enemy of great. Let me write that down. So good, and that's not a good one right there. Let's see if we can get a better one. Good is the enemy of great. See, when people get to good, which I'm sure many of you are doing good. You've got a house, whatever it might be, you're doing good. But what happens is, when people do good, they don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to take any chances. I don't want to take any risks because I don't want to lose what I have. Because it's what? It's good. But good keeps you from taking the risks, from stretching and going for great. Every single one of us has the opportunity to reach for great. So how do you go about doing it? Many of us, especially me, I needed inspiration. I needed an environment where I saw some people who could help show me the way. So when I joined Toastmasters, I was pretty shy. I wasn't outgoing. I was pretty shy. When I was, the kids who came up here today, I would have never done that. I would have never come up front and tell a joke. I was very shy. But what I learned, that doesn't serve us. Being shy, being withdrawn, doesn't serve us. So in Toastmasters, I learned confidence. I learned to be able to come here, I know no one here except Hyman and Bill, talk to a group, and speak from the heart. Because in Toastmasters, I learned how to persuade with power, how to talk passionately. I also learned how to listen. Because at Toastmasters, most of the time, you're listening. You're not talking all the time, you're listening. So I learned how to listen. And for those of us who are adults and we're married, that's a very good skill. It's a very good skill to learn how to listen. I also learned through table topics how to answer questions without any preparation. And as we get older, learning how to speak what we call off the cuff or impromptu is one of the greatest exercises for the brain. Learning a language, playing an instrument, participating in table topics is excellent for brain health. So as we get involved in Toastmasters, we are exercising our brain. How many of you exercise? Right? You lift weights, you run, you do all of this exercise. Everybody is aware of the importance of exercise for the muscles, for the lungs, for the legs, for the stomach. What about the exercise for the brain? Now, many of you kids, you are exercising your brain because you're in school. But see, many adults, once they get out of high school and college, they stop reading books. The average person, after they get out of college, reads less than 2 books a year. And usually, they're trashy novels. They're not reading something that's good for the brain. They're not reading something that can give them some ideas outside of their business. Yes, I know people read, your engineers here, reading engineering magazines or reading accounting. I'm talking about reading things that spark an interest, allow you to stretch. What do you think is the number one fear of adults? What's the number one fear?
Public speaking.
Public speaking. Who's heard that before? Okay? Not true. You know what the number one fear is? Death. Death is the number one fear. Don't let anybody tell you it's public speaking. Death is the number one fear. But there's 6 fears. There's 6 fears that people have. Death is number one. Now, in no particular order, sickness, old age, the loss of love or never finding love, poverty, and what do you think the last one is? You think it's public speaking?
No.
It's not public speaking. Here's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's criticism. If you want more information on this, go to TonyRobbins.com, 6 fears. It's criticism. What we're afraid of when it's public speaking is, is my zipper open? Do I have something on my teeth? Is my hair messed up? Or, people are afraid of criticism. They're afraid of failing in front of a group. They're afraid of having somebody think that they're stupid or silly or foolish. So we're afraid of criticism. Through Toastmasters, what you learn is this. When you walk into a room, if you're an experienced Toastmaster, you've been in Toastmasters, say, a year or 2, you're going to be one of the best prepared speakers in the room. So I have no fear. I have no fear of criticism because I'm a better speaker than all of you. So what do I have to fear? Now, I did see the red flag, so I want to say this. I'm here because I'm in the payback mode of my life. I have introduced Toastmasters to literally hundreds of people. And very often I get people coming up to me and saying, "Oh, Paul, thank you so much. I've gotten so much out of Toastmasters." And aside from the education, some of my best friends are from Toastmasters. Because Toastmasters they're involved in personal development. They have a positive mental attitude. They're upbeat. They're out there wanting to grow. Those are good people to have around you. Since I've run out of time, now I have a couple of minutes for questions. Please ask me questions. Yes?
Did you do speech and debate in school?
Did I do a speech?
Speech and debate.
Speech and debate. No, I didn't. When I was in high school, here's what I looked like in the front of the room. No, I didn't. It was after I went in the Army, and I learned in the Army to have a little bit more confidence, and I was a trainer for some areas on the machine gun. I used to train, so I learned a little bit more. Yes?
Isn't one of the fears of a parent being afraid of their wife hitting them?
Say that again, honey.
Being afraid of their wife hitting them.
Oh, is that? Yeah, well, I guess there's some people in this room that might have that as a fear. My wife doesn't hit me, she hugs me. So I go home and I get hugs all the time. Any other questions? Go on. Some of you who don't want to join Toastmasters or think Toastmasters, that's for other people. Questions? Go ahead. Go ahead, Batman.
Yeah.
How'd you get so good?
Okay. She gave the perfect example of how you get good. It's practice. Sometimes people say you're lucky. Jack Nicklaus is quoted as saying, when somebody came up and said, "Oh, Jack, you're so lucky, you win so many tournaments." Jack Nicklaus said, "Yeah, the more I practice, the luckier I get." And that's the way it is. It's a lot of practice. Now, I have been a member of Toastmasters, okay, get this, guys, for 34 years. I joined Toastmasters in 1984, as I said in my story, in order to get promoted in my company. So 34 years, and I have a promise that I made to myself. I belonged to 2 clubs for most of that time. And I made a promise, if I'm in town, I go to my Toastmaster meeting. I don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, should I go to the meeting? If I'm in town, that's my commitment. If I'm in town, I go to the Toastmaster meeting. And I'm not going to tell you if you join Toastmasters, you're going to be able to come up here and do a speech like I did. I've worked really hard. So many of you, if you can get to 70% or 80%, that's good. Yes, sir?
You just mentioned about after 2 years, you become vice president. So what is contribution from being you attending the Toastmaster club?
Got that? Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so I wanted to be the marketing director, because I was in sales, so I wanted to be the marketing director. We currently had the marketing director, and we had 35 salespeople. And you had to be able to facilitate sales meetings and large group meetings. So the person whose place I wanted to, whose position I wanted, was a fabulous communicator. And I knew I would have to develop the reputation of being a fabulous communicator in order to get that position. And that's why I entered a lot of contests. Oh, by the way, I've won I may be the only person in the United States that's ever won the state championship for all 5 contests. What's the flip side of that? Can anybody figure the flip side of that? I have lost so many contests. In order to win those 5, I've lost 50 contests. And I had to take that failure and say, what am I going to learn from that failure? And I always learn something. I learned more gestures. You notice I use a lot of gestures, a lot of vocal variety. I make a lot of eye contact, and I want to speak so that people get my heart, because that's why I'm here. By the way, I get no money for doing this, and my wife is waiting home for me to go get her because we're going out to dinner and a movie tonight. But I said, I want to make this contribution, because I know when I go to these meetings, I'm going to change the life of at least one of you. At least one of you are going to understand that by committing to personal improvement, you will not only change your life, you'll change the life of those beautiful little people sitting next to you as well. You'll improve your relationships with everybody who comes around you, because you will not be able to help it. You are going to have a positive mental attitude, because that's what we do in Toastmasters. We talk about success stories. We talk about things that really are very important to our heart. And that's what you have to do. I really went over time. I'm so
One
sorry.
last question?
Yes.
This will lead you to expand on what you just said. Paul, when we leave this Toastmasters today, do we check our Toastmasters skills at the door when we go out?
Perfect.
Or do we take them with us?
That's the whole point, Bill. I'm so glad, because a lot of people, what we're talking about is transferable skills. When you come to Toastmasters and you're learning something, you're not giving a speech to entertain the people here. You're practicing so that you can take the skill that you learn and transfer it to your workplace, to your home, to your avocations, wherever. This is like the gym where you practice. You know, you go to the gym and you grunt. That's what you do here. You grunt, you fail, you sweat, you do all this stuff. Then you take it on the road, and you do really well on the road. That's what Toastmasters is all about. Mr. Toastmaster.